Hello, people. Welcome back in a continuation to public utilization of funds and quality of service delivery. This is the next lecture on challenges of corruption, which is also a portion in the property in governance, which is of chapter 7 of your syllabus. So let's start it off because it's a very rather boring and it's very reoccurring also. I totally understand. So I've just tried to mention or highlight some points which you can right away use it for your answer, because corruption is something which is innate in our society, which every one of you will agree to it. Since the ancient times itself, the Brahmanical, the Kshatriyas order that led to the next Buddhism kind of religions, and then you can also see the Kautilya himself have mentioned the corruption in the system is very evident. And then where all can you find? In the medieval times also, obviously you can find it with the feudal lord systems, and of course after the post-Indian independence it has just taken a different form of cancerous form of disease, where the corruption is just creeping in the society. So there are many challenges of corruption. We'll quickly go and glance through it. One is that corruption, the definition is that abuse of public resources or position for your own personal gain in the public life. So that is corruption. There is political corruption also, one form of it, where you cannot say that bureaucratic and political corruption are separable. They are inseparable. That is where they influence the bureaucratic order to divert the funds or influence them to implement such policies which can benefit only their political gains. So that is where the challenge of corruption basically comes from. And then there are different forms of corruption. One is bribery. Bribery is something you offered by the citizen, either voluntary or on demand, so as to have some decisions in favor of it. You go to the city planner, you give him the bribe and he will approve your plan. Like even if you are constructing 4+1 or 5+1 roofs, he won't say anything because the bribe has been accepted. This is one form of corruption. Then patronage. You will favor your supporters with government contracts, licenses, permits. This is an indirect way of corruption. Then misappropriation or embezzlement. It is nothing but you are a thief, you are a robber of the public funds and resources, and you're causing a lot of loss to the exchequer. That is why when 2G scams, all these scams have been occurring, it has been mentioned even by the Supreme Court that there are natural resources who are these political vendetta to divert these funds for their personal uses. So this is where the misappropriation of funds happen. So what are the effects? Effects are very evident. You, me and everybody all throughout our lives, these 20 or 25 years of life, we have seen what kind of corruption exists in the society, and you and me have been part of it also. Somewhere or the other point of time we have also given it, and hope we'll be in a position that will not accept it in the future. That is what is important thing. So what are the effects of the corruption? It is uncontrolled and persistent, very disastrous for the country, bankrupt, and society slides into moral decay. Moral decay is the most important point, and persistent will be disastrous to any country. Corruption is a serious development charge because good governance is not possible when there is corruption, and the criminal justice system in administration will be not effectively delivering the public service delivery. And then there is an example of PDS distribution. Rice meant for PDS in Tamil Nadu has been diverted. That is where in the economic field there is a lot of loss to the exchequer as well. And then the private sector also, companies just throw away ethical and legal and social requirements just to earn the profit. So that is why he says that there is a triple rule of planet, profit and people, where the corporate governance is majorly emphasizing the role of. And then the corruption also creates distortions in the public sector, like the bribes and the kickbacks are very high. Match fixing in the cricket itself is a greatest phenomena, is a manifestation of this sentence, like what corruption is all about. No matter whichever genre or whichever sector you would say, it has everywhere spread its hands. So next, the corruption will environmentally services also, it will destroy in all spheres, every sphere it will damage. So what are the causes of corruption, what not is a cause of a corruption? So we can deal with it. I have not mentioned it here, but since see, all the points whatever I am talking about may not be in the PDF, and some of the things which I am talking which the PDF is having, I am also not dealing with it, to make sure that you will have a two-way edge in both the processes. Some things I'm dealing it in a voluntary purposes, from extra information through my way of delivering these lectures, as well as the PDF also has some extra information. So you need to emphasize on both the PDF as well as the lectures, but through these lectures the PDF reading would become very easy. So what are the causes of corruption? Let's see is in the social spectrum, like family, school, civil society organization have this moral and legal duty to impart the noble qualities, but that is where it is lacking. The moral education is lacking, truth, honesty, integrity is lacking, and strong resistance is not coming from the anti-social activities. Then there is high degree of secrecy in how the business in government is conducted, like the suppose the quotations of the tendering processes all will be diverted to their own kith and kin, or the people around they know or they favoritize with. So, and the failure of the rank conscious and self-serving bureaucracy is implementing the laws, but discretionary powers have been laid, that is leading to a red tapeism and delay in the public services. That is why good governance concept has re-emphasized the reducing the connect of middlemen or the red tapeism through having a e-platform, that is where people can directly connect with the government services. And then there is criminalization of politics, casteism, communalism, politicization. You misuse your power for the transfer in the services to bring back your choices of your officers and deputation to the other states, and you have many other postings and promotion based on the favoritism and nepotism. You can also say that one forms of corruption is abandoning, because of that we are abandoning the core values, misuse of authority for private gain, accepting the bribes, not enforcing the laws properly, illegal activities, you are promoting it in your environment, even though that even though the forest range officer knows that the what do you say, that wood, the sandalwood, yes, the sandalwood is being smuggled from the forest. Just because they paid you a bribe of 30,000, you just let it go. It just happened, and that is how your natural resources are being at the cost of corruption being deteriorated. So false encounters, organized crimes, not pursuing the investigations, all in all, this is a whole sphere of corruption. This is where the corruption erupts from. So what are the strategies to combat corruption? Unless you are corrupt free, you as individual are corrupt free, not giving or not taking the corrupt bribe, that is where the actual end to this corruption would happen. Anyhow, there are institutional, constitutional and many other legal approaches, but everything will come to only a standstill point until and unless you as an individual try to enforce on it. So the first one is socio-political ideological approach. He says that every citizen should realize that they have this liberty, freedom of life and a lot of fundamental rights with them. So the supreme goal is to fight back this corruption phenomena. The second one is that constitutional governance approach. It's nothing but there are separate of powers through the articles in the constitution that separates political and the permanent executive. So don't just get influence. It's very easy to say it now, but on ground reality there will be lots of ethical ambiguous situations where this portion itself, the ethics, integrity, aptitude will play an important role in emphasizing or analyzing the issues, so that for an ethical decision making at the ground reality it would enhance. So do this portion really well. Then the rule of law, fundamental rights of the citizens with the independent judiciary and doctrine of judicial review. All this, all in all, will always say that combat corruption in any form. Then we have the institutional approaches, like we have the CAG and the other PAC committee, executive then we have the public sector undertakings committee to scrutinize it, CVC, CBI, various other mechanisms to have a hold on, grab the corrupt officers. But the recent issue of the CBI officer Rakesh Asthana and the other fellow officers in charge have been into great controversies. That shows like what kind of an institutional system we are building up, and the trust on these institutions are reducing. Then there is a legal approach of through the People's Representation Act of 1950 and 1951, which has set some codes for the ministers as well as the public servants to act at individuals when they are corrupt. So the next point is civil society initiatives. So there are many other associations for democratic reforms. There are various others like NALSA. You have various other bodies. They have been trying to re-emphasize on this phenomena that corruption is not good for the society. It is anti to the developmental goals set up. So they are fighting against the corruption phenomena. Then we have the role of media, the highest but yet the most corrupt, in fact. So we have to say that media plays another important question also. It might come in near future, that what kind of media ethics should be enhanced to stop its sensationalization, to have a predetermined judgments passing through the before the courtrooms have decided anything. The newsrooms have will try to put up judgments instantly. So that is where the role of media also has to be increased with public awareness, shaping the molding the public opinion to enable the citizens for a better governance system. So the practice questions, the first one is, what is the concept of public service delivery? We have seen the public service delivery, right? So the relevant question here is a public service, what is the concept of it, and there is a question being asked, has there been a decline in the spirit of service? Just examine in the sense you have to scrutinize, you have to see where it has been compromised, this public service spirit, or where it has not been compromised, and examine as a evaluator that whether it has been done or not. So the modal answer will begin with the public service definition itself. It says that it is provided, a service provided by the government to the people within its jurisdiction through the private, in support of the private agencies, the public service delivery. So like the public health, transportation, infrastructure, various examples you can give. And in the context of the public service only, you can give some examples of, from Ashoka to Gupta, they had special officers in need that say that always were on duty to serve the people. And we have the Vivekananda concept of service to humanity, service to God. We have another concept of Mahatma Gandhi's Sarvodaya. These kind of things, when you add it in your answer, will enhance the relevance of your answer as well as your marks. So Mahatma Gandhi also says the Sarvodaya is development for all, so for all welfare, the public service is of essential value. Then the reasons. Let's go into the reasons. What are the reasons? The reasons, first one is that we can see the spirit of service delivery is being declined because of population is heavily dependent on it. The kind of vulnerable population who are dependent on this public service delivery is not being delivered properly because of the colonial legacy and over centralized bureaucratic structure. Still the bureaucratic is thinking like a new Brahminical order. They have to come out, be compassionate towards the weaker sections, understand, have empathy towards them. Only then they can legislate, implement the policies for the welfare of the people. Then immunity to civil servants leading to poor performance. There is no performance related promotions or depromote them or just get out of them service. That kind of a mechanism is not existing. So it is taken for granted that whether they work for the society or not, whether they utilize the funds properly or not, they will be anyway promoted in their career. So then there is a low salary also compared to the private sector that will make them get lured to that bribery or the corruption or other modes of influence because the salary is so low and the expectations, the kind of stature they are having is so high that they want to attain a hierarchical structure upwards. And then there is criminalization of politics, day-to-day interference also in the public administration that is leading to the declining the public service machinery. So all in all, you can conclude by saying the ARC recommendations which says that ethical training to public servants, that is why the introduction of this ethics integrity aptitude paper has also been ensured with a good conduct of inducting a conduct of ethics as well as transparent instruments like RTI. Social auditing should be improved in a system. Let's go into another question, the differentiating between the clientelism, favoritism, nepotism, rent seeking and graft. So clientelism is nothing but client-patron relationship where the public service and the administration is the relationship with the people they have for social, political and economic connections for accessing different kinds of public service deliveries. And in India, where a weak state capacity and rampant corruption has deteriorated this phenomena, this clientelism, nepotism, that politicians find it very difficult to fulfill all the commitments they have given in the election manifesto. That is why they, in the fourth or the final year of after they will enter into a new election rolls, what they'll do, just vote by the voters. So this is where this relationship gets disturbed, and it undermines the credibility of the bureaucracy, because at the end you are responsible, accountable for the public delivery machinery. Then the favoritism is unfair practice, that you favor one person towards the other. You have a biasedness towards few people. And the biasedness is because you're favoring for a social, political or economic reason, that politician always will favor of his caste or the government policies for the rich people around him to benefit them, so that in a way he also gets benefited at the end of the day. So nepotism is a different thing. Favoritism is something, it's an unfair practice of being biasness, whereas nepotism is favoritism directed towards your own friends and relatives around you. That is nepotism. During a job recruitments, when your relatives have come to the job interview, you will always promote them, or you will always give them job. This is nepotism. So these are the basic differentiations. The question may not come in the exam or in the film, but I wanted you to understand these terminologies. That is why. And then rent seeking and grafting is nothing but graft is charge of taking bribe through forms of corruption, and rent seeking is nothing but rent seeking attitude of the zamindars, which was very much in the colonial period, is being continued even today in various forms of taxes or other forms of various other forms which are encouraging people to go through the other means. Suppose you are converting your residential property into a commercial property, like you are renting out to some mall or a shop or any other departmental stores. You are actually staying in the house, and now you have to rent it out to some commercial purposes. So now if I go to the actual locality wise, a planner would be assigned to your locality. When I go to him, I say that this is what I intend to do, the commercial entity I am converting it into. He says that he always gives me an option. I will reduce your actual rent you will attain through this on the documents, and instead it's just a quid pro quo, like I'll reduce your rent amount on the documents and you give me some 10,000 bucks or 20,000 in quid pro quo moment. So this is what this is the rent seeking. They're seeking the rent. Being a bureaucrats and being into the administrative systems in the state governments, they are rent seeking, and the diversion of these actual money which has to go into the government exchequer is being diverted somewhere else. So these are some terminologies which you have to be understanding, and that all in all, this is challenges to the corruption. Very lengthy topic, and many aspects can be added. You can add even some case studies from the all over international wise, and how they have reduced the corruption, because Norway, Denmark, Sweden, all these places in Transparency International also, they have the best ranking. So you can just Google them and write something extra on this. But basically these questions, most of these questions will be delivered through your case studies only. They'll be asking you what kind of values you should inculcate so that corruption can be reduced and all sorts of things. So all in all, this ends your chapter 7. We'll soon meet you with the case studies on all the above chapters from unit 1 to 7. Jai Hind, take care, keep liking, sharing and subscribing to the channel, and do comment below the feedback of the programs, like what else you want us to do for you, so that you can have a better preparation. Okay, thank you, and see you soon with another video. Thank you.